You guys will not believe the story. A young girl who went missing in June of 2024 appeared to her sister in a dream to tell her where she was, so they would come and find her. And this dream led to a very disturbing discovery. On the 26th of June 2024, 26-year-old Josephine Owino got a phone call from a strange man who invited her over. Her younger sister, Periskea, whom she lived with, did not know who this man was. The only thing she remembered was Josephine getting the phone call and going to see that man. Paris did not think too much of it because she believed that her sister Josephine sounded very comfortable in the phone call, sounded excited to see this man. So there was no cause for alarm. They both lived in an impoverished neighborhood in Mukuru slums, Kenya. So this was somewhat like a ghetto, and it was not unusual for Josephine to go visit men, especially if they were financially beneficial to her. Just like every other visit in the past, Periskea thought Josephine would just go and come back. But this one was different. Josephine left, but never returned. For 2 weeks straight, Paris had to go to the police station several times to ask the police to help find her sister Josephine. She was getting tired of caring for Josephine's baby, who had been crying the whole time, waiting and expecting her mother to return. Paris was frustrated. Paris was disturbed. She did not understand what was happening. Has Josephine ran away, abandoning her baby for someone else to care for? Or was Josephine in trouble and the police were not doing enough? Until July of 2024, few weeks later, one night when Periskea was asleep, and in her dream, she saw her sister Josephine. According to Paris still, in her dream, her sister Josephine began beating her up, asking her why she's telling strangers her business and also putting pressure on her to come pay her a visit. The dream was so disturbing to Paris that she had to ask her sister in the dream, "Where are you? If you want me to come and pay you a visit, tell me where you are so I can come and pay you a visit." And in the dream, Josephine took her sister to a burrow pit, to a slump, to a quarry that had been turned into a dump site. Josephine took her sister there and pointed at a spot. After Josephine pointed at the spot where Paris could come pay her a visit, she disappeared. And when Paris woke up, she could not make sense of this dream. However, she felt that Josephine was trying to tell her something. It was then said Paris went to speak with other relatives of hers who also admitted to have seen Josephine in their dreams. One of their cousins claimed that Josephine also appeared to her, asking them why they left her in the cold. And because of this revelation and these dreams, everybody felt that Josephine must have been in that burrow pit somewhere. Periskea was very certain that it was her sister who had appeared to her in that dream, that her sister was trying to tell her something. And so they went to the dump site, a very big, massive dump site, a big quarry that had been turned into a burrow pit. But where would they begin from? Where would they start searching from? It was even dangerous for anybody to go there searching. With everyone there trying to figure out a way to find something out of this burrow pit that may make sense of this dream, a young man named Kayalo soon volunteered to go into the pit to find what they were assuming to be looking for. Kayalo was geared up and assisted by the natives there. He went in searching, looking for Josephine, looking for a body. Obviously, at this time, they were not expecting her to be alive. If Josephine was anywhere in that quarry, in that dump site, they knew she was most likely dead. But what they saw was not what they were expecting. It did not take long before Kayalo found a sack bag that seemed to contain human remains. When they got this sack bag up, their nightmare was confirmed for real. That bag contained several parts of a dismembered human being. And this was the first discovery. The body parts were already in an early stage of decomposition, and they could not tell who it was. But it did not end there, because Kayalo, who had gone there to find these body parts in quest for looking for Josephine, saw other similar sack bags that seemed to contain something unusual. Ladies and gentlemen, that was how a total of 10 sack bags containing human remains was discovered from the quarry. Some sources said there were 9 bags, some sources said it was up to 13. Many of these bags were already at different stages of decomposition, apart from one that seemed to have been very fresh. It was then later discovered that many of these bodies belonged to women between the ages of 18 and 30. But of all these 13 bodies that were discovered, and were taken to the morgue for observation and identification, none of them was Josephine Owina. And all of a sudden, this became a totally different storyline. From searching from the missing Josephine Owina to discovering the bodies of 13 different young women. Something was happening. Who were these women and how did they get there? Who killed them, dismembered them, and put their body in a sack bag to dump it there? And this took a whole different turn. It now seemed like a serial killer is on the loose, because whoever killed the first woman was the one who killed the second one, was the one who killed the third one, because it seemed like all the bodies were in that pit, some of them close to each other, which meant it was one person doing this, because it was all similar, the same method, dismembered, packed in a sack bag, apart from one that seemed intact. Maybe the killer got tired of cutting them off and just felt, oh, what's the point? Just dump them there. They haven't seen the other ones, so there's no need to take the extra mile to make them difficult to identify. And he just let that one go. And I'm going to guess that the body that was still intact was the one that was later identified to be a 24-year-old mother of three by the name of Rosalind Acott Ongogo, who they said had left her house on the 28th of June 2024 to go look for a job, just so she can provide for her children and her family. And somehow, someway, she ended up in a burrow pit, in a sack bag, dead. This discovery blew up the internet. The entire country, Kenya, was in shambles, because what is this? Who is killing these girls and why? At some point, Paris became a hero. And when she was interviewed, she did say that it was her sister's spirits that appeared to her in a dream that led her there. Which is funny, because out of the 13 bodies discovered, none of them have been identified to be Josephine. Is it possible that Josephine is still somewhere there? Or was she taken somewhere else? Or maybe her body is part of the bodies that was dismembered, but it may have been difficult to identify. But I would assume if the sister knows her very well, it will be easy for the bodies to be identified, because in as much as it's dismembered, when it's being taken for autopsy or to a morgue, each of these bodies in each sack bag would be placed and arranged so that it could easily be identified. But somehow, some way, Paris have not been able to identify any one of the 13, or let me say, any one of the 9 to 13 bodies to be that of her sister, the one in the dream who led her to find the other women. Even beside that, the people were very angry. The people in the neighborhood, the people in the community were pissed, because where this burrow pit is, where this dump site is, it's very close to the police station. How can the police be there and somebody is killing, dismembering women and dumping it right in their nose? This was just weeks after they have finished protesting against the government, and so some people went to the police station to protest against them, but the police dispersed the crowd with tear gas. Since Rosalind was the first and maybe at the time the only person identified, they decided to search her details, her mobile phone, her call logs, her bank accounts, and this was where the police were able to trace a transfer that was made to an unusual bank account that belonged to a man named Collins Jumaisi Kalusha. And when the police were trying to find out who this Collins Jumaisi Kalusha was and where he was, and what is his relationship with Jocelyn, which, by the way, the transfer was made around the time she went missing. So this transfer was not made from her home when she was still with her family. The police were able to date this transfer to the period of time that she was being looked for. And what do you know? When the police found his address, it turned out that Collins lived in the neighborhood where these bodies were found. Collins did not live far. When they traced Collins to that neighborhood, and that is where they just figured out that this might just be their killer. This might just be who they're looking for. Collins had a rented house there, he had an apartment there, and so he lived there, most likely by himself. And so, around the early hours of the 15th of July 2024, few days after they had discovered the body, few days after the police already started making their investigation, Collins Kalusha was arrested outside a bar where he had gone to watch the Euro football match, the final between Spain and England. He was coming out of the bar where they just cornered him and put him in handcuffs. Collins was said to be a 33-year-old man who used to be a former motorcycle rider, like a former Okada man. It's not clear how the interrogation went or when and how he admitted, but when he was taken to the police station that night, the next day, he took the police to his home. And this was where the police were able to confirm their greatest suspicion. This man is sick, and this man most likely was the one who committed those murders and dumped the bodies of those young women in that burial pit. They found a stained pillowcase, blood-stained pillowcase, a t-shirt that most likely belonged to a female, a machete, an industrial glove, sellotapes, pliers, scissors, and so many sack bags that looked like those ones the body had been discovered in. And as if that was not enough, they found 10 mobile phones in the possession of this man, ID cards, a laptop, and other personal items belonging to women. Although some sources claim that the police actually went to his house first that night to look for him but did not find him, so they burst into his house and found all these items before going to arrest him at the bar where he was watching the football match. Other articles claim they arrested him first and he took them to his house. But my big question is, if Collins lived in that neighborhood and such a big discovery had been made, it means he may have heard of it, because that would be the talk of the town. 3 bodies discovered in your neighborhood. What else would anyone be talking about? A football match? I don't think so. So people are wondering why, if Collins knew that it has been discovered, why did he not hide all of these things or dispose of them? Because he should have known that the police were going to do their investigation. Many people are wondering why. Because there are some people who actually believe that he might be innocent. His neighbors, many of them don't think he did it. Some of them are claiming the police put those things they discovered in his house to set him up so that they can pin it on someone. And their argument is it does not make sense that he would do it. One of their claims is because the apartment is so small and so cramped that he would not have killed those girls there without anyone hearing. Another claim is, why would he allow those things to be there, knowing that everybody is talking about how the girls have been discovered? But this is my take, and this is what I feel. Sometimes these serial killers, when somebody is a psychopath, the person is a psychopath. Many of them are only tricky, corny, and manipulative. They are not that bright. They might be intelligent as it comes to plotting on how to kill. But somewhere in his mind, he never thought he would be caught. These people, they don't think that, because if you think you're going to be caught and arrested, that is when you start making plans to hide your tracks. But this man don't think he will be caught. For somebody to kill 13 women, which by the way, he confessed to have killed so much more than that. 13 bodies were found, but there are sources claiming he had killed over 20 since 2022. So for him to have been doing that up to this point, at certain point, it's nothing to him. At certain point, he'll be fine. At certain point, he sees himself as invisible or invincible. So people arguing that, oh, he could not have done it. No. He could have actually done it. The reason why all these weapons and bloodstained clothes and the mobile phones and dresses belonging to these women are still in his apartment is because he did not think they would ever get to him. When you've been doing something and getting away with it, at some point you stop trying to cover your tracks. At some point you tell yourself, oh, well, lucky me. Oh, there's something about me that I'm the anemia of this generation. Nobody can find me. And then they drop their guard, they lose guard, they become careless, they stop covering their tracks. That is why in the end, the last body he most likely dumped there, he even got tired of dismembering it. He did not dismember it because at this stage, he feels like he can do this and get away and nothing will come back to him. So that is the only good reason why he did not make attempt to hide anything, despite the fact that he had heard in the neighborhood that bodies had been discovered. It even gets worse and even more shocking because when he was taken into questioning, the police claimed in their report that Collins confessed that he did those killing. He had been killing women since 2022. The first person he actually killed was his wife. And how he killed his wife is another story on its own. According to the narrative, Collins was first married to a young woman named Melda Kamea, and his reason for killing his wife is somewhat unusual. It was claimed that Collins had started a business and was letting his wife run it. However, the wife squandered all the money. Then he opened a second business where his wife still ran the business to the ground. And this frustrated him to the point he had to chop up his wife into pieces, put her in a sack bag, and dumped her body in that quarry. And since then, I guess he enjoyed killing his wife because he did not stop. From 2022 up to 2025, It is believed that he may have killed a total of 45 women and had dumped their body in that burial pit. But my thing is, killing your wife because she did something is one thing, but what did the other women do to you? That is why I don't believe he killed his wife out of anger or vengeance. I think the serial killer in him was coming out. The devil in him was coming out. Or maybe after killing his wife, he just started enjoying it. He enjoyed what he did. It's not clear if his victims are all women. It's possible. They did say that they saw some ID cards belonging to some men in his house. Maybe some men may have been part of his long list of victims. But so far the articles kept claiming that over time, because these bodies were not found all in one day. After the first day, they found 2 bodies. The police went further to search and hopefully they saw more. And even after he was arrested, they still had to go back to keep looking for more because apparently he has been killing and dumping people there. So they're supposed to find way more than just 13 bodies because the man claimed he had killed more than just 13. So where are the other bodies? When the media got hold of this story, it was named the Kenya Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is a very popular serial killer in the West. So he's I think he's one of the most deadliest American serial killers out there. And so Collins Lakusha has been termed the Ted Bundy of Kenya. Some people also address him as a vampire. However, it has not been stated if he had any help committing these crimes. He did it by himself. Although police arrested multiple people that were in cohorts with him, because after leading the police to his house, the next day Collins led them to a man named Moses Ogembo and another man named Amos. These 2 men were people who bought phones from Collins. So all the victims that Collins would kill, he would take their mobile phone and sell them to these 2 people. And apparently when he was arrested, he led the police to these men, and these men were also picked up and arrested. Here we are again talking about people who just get arrested for buying stolen phones of dead people that they did not know. Now they will go to jail, and now they've been forever connected to a serial killer. I don't know if the family of Josephine ever asked him about, where Josephine was, if he killed Josephine or where he dumped Josephine, because up until the time of making this video, the reason why they went to search that pit was not found. Josephine has still not been found. This reminds me of the Ibadan Forest of Horror story that we talked about. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't seen it, maybe I'll pin it up here or you guys can go check it out, where the man was the reason, he was missing and buried underground, and because they were looking for him, they found a whole lot of people tied up with a whole lot of bodies scattered in the forest. And everybody forgot about the reason why they came there. The man who led the people to discover the Ibadan Forest of Horror was never found. And Josephine, right here, who, because of her, they found all these victims, has still not been found. This is the sad part about the story. So if you've watched to this end, it gets really worse. Because when Collins was taken to court, his lawyer argued and gave a very good argument. According to the lawyer, Collins did not kill these people, and his confession was under duress. I don't know if he addressed all the things that were found in his house, but I would assume they would claim the police put it there. However, the lawyer took advantage of the situation. You know that Kenya at the time had already protested their government. So they had a massive state protest against tax increase and some stuff going on. And throughout this whole protest, the police force arrested over 50 people and killed over 50 people too. So many people were arrested in this protest, many people were killed. And the lawyer used that as a good base for his argument, saying that those bodies dumped in that burial pit were not killed by Collins, that they were killed by the police. That many of these victims could have been that of the police, because let's face it, there was a police station close by. And let me tell you, this argument holds a lot of water. This argument made people start to rethink, because many people went missing during this protest. Up till now, some people are still looking for their loved ones who may have been taken away or killed by the police in that protest. So what are the chances that the bodies found behind the police station were victims of Collins Kalusha, whereas they also could have been victims of police brutality? And this was where the court was like, okay, this lawyer has a point. And so they had to remand Collins in prison for a while. Unfortunately, in August of 2024, Collins, along with other people, escaped from jail. Up until now, as at the time of making this video, Collins Kalusha is nowhere to be found. They've placed a bounty on his head and people are still searching for him. It was said they cut the fence wire and jumped over the fence and escaped. 8 police officers were blamed for aiding him to escape, and they were suspended and also held accountable and responsible for Collins to escape. And I personally believe that that is the case. I believe that these police officers let him escape, and it could be one or two things. I don't think Collins have money. I don't think he's rich. If Collins was a rich person, I would understand that he most likely bribed his way for this police officer to let him escape. But Collins ain't rich. So why else would a police officer agree to allow an accused serial killer escape? Could it be they did not want an innocent man to suffer for their own crime? Could it be that somebody in the police station knew that those bodies found in that dump site could not have been his victims? Now, I want you guys to understand this picture here. In as much as the narrative and the story goes on to tell us or paint this man as the serial killer, it's coming from the police's mouth. This whole thing, they're coming from the words of the police. I believe Collins may have done these things, but the only thing that we know that links him to this death are the confessions that he made. But we were told these confessions by the police. So it's the police who told us that this is what Collins said. Put that in mind. And the lawyers of Collins are arguing that he was forced to make those statements. At the same time, his neighbors who lived close to him said that their house was so tightly closed, that the apartments were so congested. And these neighbors are speaking up for Collins, saying that there is no way Collins will bring girls to that house and kill, that they would not hear anything. So there's a group of people believing Collins is innocent. And with the way the police let him escape allegedly, it furthermore may suggest that for a police officer or someone in the police force to aid this man escape, probably felt conscious enough to not want him to suffer for a crime he did not commit. But that aside, now we've argued that part, now we've seen that point of view. Between me and you, I believe Collins did it. Because the protests and the arrests against the government happened as far back as early this year. The 2 girls we're talking about went missing in June, and some of them even in July. Police were not arresting people then. And how do you explain the transfer that was made to his own bank account? What was his relationship with the Rosalind girl? And the mobile phones found in his house? Okay, let's assume the police planted those mobile phones in his house and the female clothing. The point remains that 2 other people who were arrested for being in possession of these people's phone, the victims' phones, where did they get it? If those people can say that Collins sold them those phones, then Collins' hand is not clean. And this is where I would have to side with the police on this. Collins is a serial killer, especially his wife. So where did his wife go? What's the story about his wife? If he killed his wife in 2022, what is the story? Did they say the wife went missing? Did they say the wife ran away? Because as at the time he was arrested, he was most likely married. I don't know, because they kept saying his first wife. So I don't know if he has a second wife. Everything and every element of this story points to the fact that Collins knew some of these women, and he may have also been the one who killed them. The only thing is, his lawyer does have a good argument and can spin this around in court. He can turn this around, and if he argues his point so well, Collins may maybe get a lesser time or go scot-free anyway. But I feel like the people of Kenya should not just relax, because if this man is truly a serial killer, he has escaped from prison. The killing would not stop, because he will still need to steal more phones to make a living. And for that to happen, he will go back to the same old tricks. So are we expecting more victims from Kalusha? Or is he going to run away and turn a new leaf to live a new life that he would never be wanted or looked for again? I hope they catch him soon, because if he's out there, more people are at risk. More people are going to die. More people will be killed. The only thing is, where would he see another borrow pits to throw them? Well, I'm sure there are probably many borrow pits for him to find. You'll most likely go and look for a house that is close to a quarry so that he can resume his killing again. Because once a killer, always a killer. Man, I'm going to stay updated with this guy's story. So you guys stay subscribed, turn on your notification button. So whenever there's an update, you'll be the first to get notified.